Today we're going to get a lot of souls and gain a lot of levels. This video is all about how to reach the level cap in Dark Souls and how to do it as fast as possible. We're going to get huge. Reaching the maximum level in any RPG sounds like a very time-consuming experience with a ton of hours worth of gameplay required to achieve this feat. For example, the average World of Warcraft Classic player will spend approximately 200 hours to reach the level cap of 60, with speedrunners getting there in less than 50 hours. But how long would it take to accomplish this in my favorite video game, Dark Souls? And before we continue getting huge in Dark Souls, I'm going to ask for your help to get huge on YouTube by liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. Right now, we're at 13,000 subscribers, but reaching that 20,000 subscriber mark would be an enormous milestone. Now, on this channel, we love to break things with the many insane glitches that are possible in Dark Souls, and we'll definitely be covering this topic from a glitched speedrunning perspective, but first, let's take a dive into what grinding to max level would look like in this game if we didn't use any glitches at all. In comparison with other RPGs, Dark Souls is no exception in that it also would take quite a long time to reach the maximum level simply by grinding souls through normal gameplay. However, reaching the level cap for Dark Souls is far more of a Herculean task than most, as the level cap goes above 700. The actual level cap does depend on your starting class stats, however, as your starting stats determine how many levels you need to reach 99 in every attribute. For example, Thief maxes out at level 711, but a Sorcerer would max out at level 713. This high level cap, combined with the exponential increase in souls needed to acquire every new level, means reaching the maximum level in Dark Souls would take a pretty long time, even when you optimize the process. In fact, you would need about 1.6 billion souls in order to reach the level cap. To put that in perspective, at the highest new game cycle scaling, the final boss, Gwyn, gives 175,000 souls upon defeat. In order to reach the level cap, you would have to defeat New Game Plus 6 Gwyn approximately 9,500 times to reach the 1.6 billion souls required to reach max level. That's a lot of plin-plin-ploning. But if we were going to defeat Gwyn a bunch of times, we'd also have to clear out a lot of other bosses too, right? So how many souls could you reasonably expect to get from every cycle from New Game Plus 6 onward if you kill every single boss? Totaling up the soul yield from all 26 bosses at the highest scaled cycle, while also utilizing the soul yield buffs from the Silver Serpent Ring and Symbol of Avarice combined, you'll receive 3,942,000 souls. At this rate, it would take 425 New Game Plus 6 cycles in order to get enough souls to reach the max level. Let's be generous and say you can finish each cycle at the same speed as the all bosses glitchless world record for Dark Souls at 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 37 seconds. This means that it would take you roughly 500 hours of constant world record pace gameplay in order to gather enough souls to reach the level cap. Adding on the many extra boss souls you would get from this exercise would reduce the necessary time even further. But there is likely an even faster method if you're trying to reach the level cap legitimately. This easier method of soul farming involves repeatedly running from the bonfire in the Painted World to the courtyard of Felix's, killing them all with the firestorm, boning back, and then repeating this process over and over. At the highest scaling with the aforementioned soul yield buffing items, you can net about 30,000 souls per cycle, with each cycle taking about 30 seconds. At this rate of about 60,000 souls per minute, you would reach the 1.6 billion soul requirement in approximately 465 hours. Yikes. However, if we're willing to step outside the bounds of glitchless legitimacy there is a much faster way to reach the level cap. The quantity usage soul glitch. This glitch involves storing an upper maximum quantity by opening a drop prompt on any item with a quantity, such as arrows, which, if we possess 999 of them, have a very high upper maximum quantity. After opening this drop prompt, the game stores this number internally, and then by overlaying another menu on top of the inventory menu, we can inject this stored upper maximum quantity into the use prompt for a soul item. Then we simply increment the prompt down, wrapping to reach this upper maximum, and confirm the prompt to consume 999 of that soul item. This obviously can give a lot of souls, and if we're willing to use this method and any other means we want outside of multiplayer shenanigans or external cheats, we can bring this 465-hour estimate way down. But how far down? Well, I created a speedrun route to answer this exact question, and it's actually a pretty interesting run. Let's take a look. Starting from a fresh character creation screen, for this route we will select Thief and Black Firebombs, a classic speedrun combination. Thief will start with the free master key, which will need to open a certain door, and this means we can take something else as our starting gift, and Black Firebombs are the best choice to save time. The first thing we'll do is use our Black Firebombs to take out the Asylum Demon quickly, using up 5 of our 10 bombs to do so. Then we'll pick up the Bandit Knife, which we'll use to take out one enemy shortly. Then we can free Oscar for our flask and the Big Pilgrim's Key to leave, and since we don't need our souls, we can just Dark Sign back to this bonfire, placing us closer to the exit to save a few seconds. Exiting the Asylum, we have some major skips ahead, so buckle in. First, we'll grab this hidden soul item on the left, and then execute our first major skip called Firelink Skip. Jumping into the cutscene trigger, we'll skip both cutscenes and then force close the game. This will cause the Firelink map to appear whenever we reload, with our coordinates still in the Asylum, so we'll spawn in mid-air and fall into Berg. If we then quit out just when our character hits the ground, we'll actually survive this fall and spawn in unharmed right next to another soul item we can pick up on the scaffolding. Now, as cool as that skip was, we have another big one coming up right afterwards as we make our way over to this flaming barrel and then backstab this annoying hollow as we jump on this railing and quit out to store our character's position here, so on reload, we'll be standing on the railing to then turn and run into a jumping plunge to slide into this collision that loads Darkroot Basin. Dark signing into another precisely timed Alt F4 will trigger a force quit wrong warp that will spawn our character near Andre. All of this has happened in under 3 minutes. Wow. Coming up on Andre, we're gonna drop one of the souls we picked up to do a mini soul dupe using the quantity of 5 from the Black Firebombs. Then pick the soul we dropped back up and use these 1000 souls to buy as many arrows as we can from Andre. We can then use this arrow quantity of 333 to do a much bigger dupe on the second soul item, netting us 66,000 souls. Using these souls, we can buy the rest of the arrows we want. Now, we need a rest at this bonfire upstairs, and there are some level ups we want to make with these souls. The most important level ups are getting 22 strength and 18 dex to wield our primary weapon for the run, but we'll also use the remainder to level up some health and endurance. At this point, you might be a little unsure where we're going with our routing. Our main objective is to reach Lost Isolith to get a soul of a great hero in a chest surrounded by lava, which means we'll have to defeat a couple of bosses on the way, and the fastest option for us to deal some decent damage would be the Black Knight Halberd. The fastest way to complete this run is to basically get the biggest soul item you can find, which we can go over the math on later. Heading down to the Black Knight, we can do a little bit of cool parkour to drop down to him a little bit faster, and then grab the nearby Grass Crest shield. We'll perform a quit out after grabbing the shield to set up a really nice strategy to get the knight to just run off the cliff himself. Once he drops the halberd, we can immediately do a second force quit wrong warp closing the game on a precise window during the load screen, which will spawn us in New Londo Ruins this time. Since our next boss is Quelaag on the way to Isolith, this is a convenient Rog Warp location. Entering Blighttown, we can perform one of the many ways to quickly descend into the swamp, but this one is probably my favorite, running off this plank and plunging the slope into a couple of air rolls to iframe the fall damage. From here, we can just roll through the poison swamp, enter Quelaag's domain, and then access the boss fight to take her on with our halberd. Even though our weapon is unupgraded, we should still be able to do decent damage to this admittedly tanky boss, as not only does the halberd have good base damage without any upgrades, but we can get some extra damaging hits in by spacing ourselves in just the right way to land our attacks on the human part of the spider. This not only deals extra damage, but also will stagger her, allowing us to control the fight quite a bit. Now that she's down, we can continue into the Demon Ruins to begin probably the most difficult stretch of the entire run. We want to get to Lost Isolith, but there are multiple obstacles we're going to have to overcome. And we're going to have to do it without taking any additional bonfires for safety, as since we don't have the Lord Vessel, we need to be able to warp directly back to the Undead Parish bonfire as part of the final steps of the run. Not only is there a large stretch of lava supplied by ceaseless discharge standing in our way to the rest of the Demon Ruins, there's also a golden fog gate blocking our entrance to Isolith. We're going to be able to get past both of these things, and without killing any additional bosses, as that would be slow. First, we'll start with Ceaseless Skip. In my opinion, this is one of the coolest skips in the entire game, and it's honestly not too bad to execute yourself with a little bit of practice, if you make sure to level up a lot of HP and bring a lot of Estus and Humanities. In this run, we don't really have either of those things, so this is actually a pretty challenging skip to execute. But even with a low amount of resources, you can still perform this crossing, as you can see here. We're not done, however, as we still have a golden fog gate ahead we need to circumvent, and there is a skip that will allow us to do so called Fire Sage Skip. On the way to the fog gate, there is a burrowing rock worm, which has a grab attack that we can exploit with a technique called a grab cancel. During its grab attack, if we attack the worm on a precise frame, the grab will fling us through the wall and land us past the golden fog gate on the ceiling of Centipede Demon's arena. We can then drop down from this ceiling and trigger the fight with Centipede by moving up to the activation zone at the fog wall. From here, we'll just make our way to the center of the arena to initiate a melee encounter with the boss. Otherwise, he really likes to just spam arm attacks at us from a distance. The Black Knight Halberd may be a good weapon, but it's still just at +0 since we didn't have a good opportunity to upgrade it during the run, so the fight is a little longer than I'd like, which absolutely opens us up to some mistakes and bad RNG, as I miss some attacks here and there, but overall it's not a difficult fight, and it doesn't take too long. Once Centipede's HP bar is reduced to 0, he goes down and drops us the orange charred ring. With the ring in our possession and the fog wall cleared, we can now continue into Lost Isolith. This is what we've been working our way towards the entire run. As in the lava area ahead, there's a pagoda in the middle, which contains a chest that houses a soul of a great hero. This is the item we're going to really abuse to get to max level. With some particular pathing, we can easily run past these dragon butts to safely arrive at the chest, pick up the soul, then homeward bone all the way back to Undead Parish for the final portion of the run. Using the souls we have left over, we can do a glitch with Andre called a prompt swap to buy a glitched longsword that is the equivalent of 999 longswords, and when we select the weapon a second time, a negative internal value gets stored. Using this, we can drop a negative quantity of the soul item to give us a positive quantity, and we now have 99 soul of a great heroes. This is where the duping section begins. Every dupe cycle is going to involve us dropping all of our great hero souls on the ground except for one, performing a 999 soul dupe on the one in our inventory, then picking up the stack we dropped and doing the whole thing over again. Every cycle of this nets us 19,980,000 souls. Our goal is to reach 1,670,000,000 souls, which means we'll have to do this cycle of duping 84 times to get to max level. With every single cycle taking about 12 seconds each, this comes out to about 17 minutes of just performing this same sequence of inputs. Literally, the majority of the length of the run is just doing this. And this is exactly why we got the soul of a great hero in Isolith. In a much simpler route, we could have retrieved a soul of a hero in Sin's Fortress, which gives 10,000 souls, and that would be a few minutes faster than the amount of time it takes to grab the great hero soul. But it would literally take twice as long to perform the necessary amount of dupes to reach max level, 34 minutes instead of 17 minutes, which means that spending the extra time to get the bigger soul item saves us around 14 minutes from the overall runtime. Now, as an extra wrinkle to this process, we can only hold 999,999,999 souls in Dark Souls at one time. One short of a billion. So we need to stop the duping process short and bank the 990 million we've already gathered before continuing any more dupes. So we'll go upstairs and rest, then perform maybe the most satisfying level dump of all time, taking almost everything to 99 except for the last two attributes which we have to stop short on, then immediately get back to doing the remainder of our dupe cycles. Several minutes later, we'll approach the end of all this, and we'll know that we're done whenever we get down to 15 Soul of a Great Heroes remaining. With this, we can finally rest and do the final level up to take us all the way to the maximum of soul level 711, and that is time. Maximum level in Dark Souls achieved in just under 30 minutes. So, I hope that was interesting. I started this video as just a simple speedrun idea to get something out kind of quick because it had been a few weeks since I uploaded anything. But then it ended up being interesting trying to figure all this out and doing the math for it, so it kind of turned into half of an edited dive into how long it would take to do this glitchless versus the actual speedrun itself with glitches. I hope the mixture of both video types wasn't too weird, basically. But yeah, let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this with a bit more of a deep dive into a particular topic, instead of the edited speedruns with commentary I usually do. That being said, I'll definitely be trying to get back to a more consistent upload schedule now that I'm back from a brief vacation, so stay tuned for more Dark Souls speedrun videos, and thank you so much for watching.